Yuchal miyad. After you make hamotzi, you should eat the bread immediately. V'lo yasiach ben beracha la'achila. You should not interrupt between the blessing and the eating. V'im sach, and if you speak after you say hamotzi and before you eat the bread, tzarich lachazor u'levarich. You have to go back and say the blessing again.
But you don't have to wash.
Unless what you spoke about had to do with what the blessing is about. Okay? Okay, going for example, shiberech halapat. You first made a blessing on the bread. The kodem shulchan, before you ate, Amar, you said, Heviu melech o liftan, please pass me the salt or the dip. Tenu leproni lecho, please feed this person. Tenu ma'achal lebe'ema, please feed the animal. From here we're going to learn halachot of feeding the animals, by the way. Anything included in the category of food and eating and the meal, if you say it between the bracha and eating, you don't have to go back and make another hamotzi, you can eat right away. Now, should you do that or not? That's a different question. But if you did it, it's not the same as talking about the baseball game, or talking about the stroller outside, or talking about the sun, or the weather, or whatever else. Says the Ramah, Mikol Makom, nonetheless, lechatchila, ideally, lo yafsik klal, you shouldn't make interruptions at all. V'ha di'im sach devarim betelim tzarich lachzor u'levarich, haynu dafka shesach kodem she'achal habotzeah. And that, which it says that you shouldn't speak, that's only when you speak before you eat the bread. Who's you? The one who made hamotzi. But after you taste the bread, לא הביא שיחה תפסק, אף על פי שעדיין לא אכלו אחרים המסובים, כבר יצאו כולם באכילת הבוצע. Listen to something fascinating. If I'm making hamotzi, and I eat the bread, and then you talk before you eat the bread, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. If I talk before I eat the bread, it's not okay. Why? כי אין צריכים כולם לאכול מפרוסת הבוצע, because not everybody has to eat from the bread that you make hamotzi on. רק שעושים כן לחבב המצווה. The only reason we hand out bread to everybody is so that they should show that they like the mitzvah of hamotzi that you just made.
Can you repeat it again, Rabbi?
Sure, I'm going to say it again because this goes into all the other 100 things we've studied in the last few weeks where nobody knows what they're doing. When I make a hamotzi, you don't have to eat bread. I have to eat bread. I made a hamotzi for you. And therefore when I finish eating my bread and then you talk, so what? Nothing happened. It's only a problem if I, who's making hamotzi, or you, who's making hamotzi,
but
you talk.
Though when we answer a man, doesn't that, it's like we did the blessing also, or no?
Watch this. I'm making kiddush. After I finish making kiddush, I can't speak before I drink, correct? By the way, I do it every week. You do it every week too. What am I talking about? Baruch Borei Pnei Gefen. What am I supposed to do now?
Drink.
Yeah, I don't do that though.
You pour.
Yeah, you don't do
Pour
it.
into the
You don't
cup.
do it.
I say another bracha.
Yes.
Baruch then
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a whole nother bracha, no?
We do have the law sometimes.
Mekadesh HaShabbat Kivanu V'Chalta. We do that and then we drink. How can we say that bracha between drinking, saying Hagefen and drinking?
Even
Havdalah.
Havdalah is even more.
Havdalah is even better. You're doing candles,
Yeah.
besamim, all kinds of things. How can you do it?
Because you're talking about the mitzvah.
Very good. You are saying brachot that have to do with what you're doing now. It's not an interruption.
Oh, Sheva Barachot also.
Sheva brachot is complicated, Baruch.
Or a wedding.
You chose the
Jewish.
hardest part of the whole area of halakha.
Or
How
a
many?
wedding.
How many brachot are in the Sheva brachot?
7.
I would imagine 7.
You think, right?
But then you add, if you're doing Birkat Hamazon, it's big.
So let's forget the Birkat Hamazon. Under the chuppah, you start with Borei Pnei Gefen,
Right.
and then you read 6 more brachot. Correct?
Right.
Those brachot are all one long bracha. Every one of those brachot is not a separate bracha. I'm doing a wedding in 2 weeks. At that wedding, I'm doing all 7 brachot. I'm not calling up anybody else. What do you mean you're going to call up one person? Imagine this. We're going to do the Amidah, and you're going to do the first bracha out loud, you're going to do the second bracha out loud, the third bracha out loud, the fourth bracha. It's a one tefillah. How do you split it up?
Yeah, everybody does.
There is no Sephardic or Ashkenazi community that had a minhag to do this. It's a fairly recent invention among Ashkenazi Jews that spread like wildfire everywhere else. Rav Moshe Feinstein, for example, held that the most people you can split up Sheva Brachot with are 4 people. At my wedding, they wanted to split it up, I split it between 4 people. There are certain brachot that are called brachot hasimuchot. They're blessings that they're attached to another blessing.
Havdalah?
So Havdalah is everyone is its own. But let me give you an example. Bracha hasimucha. Okay, when you say in the morning brachot, you say Asher Yitzhak, and after Asher Yitzhak, you say Elohim, Neshama, Shada B'Torah, Tabat, Etzlah, and then Baruch Hashem, Amachzin Shemot V'Lomitim. Right? You say that blessing. That Elohim, Neshama, you can't say it on its own. It's attached to the blessing before it. Every blessing has to start with the words Baruch Atah Hashem, or it's not a blessing. So every blessing that you say has to start with the Baruch Atah Hashem. The Baruch Atah Hashem is the first Baruch Atah Hashem of Asher Yitzhak, and that takes you through Elohim Neshama. The same way that when you say Samech Tesamach Ma'ovim or Sos Tasis Tegel Akara, that Samech Tesamach or Sos Tasis under the Sheva Brachot is attached to the blessing before it. You can't just start the blessing with Samech Tesamach. And if you would tell people these halachot, they're going to look at you like you're the crazy one.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean? You know how many times I do it? And I just don't fight with them. I'm going to do it. It's not enough they separate. Imagine this. All 7 brachot are being said, everyone's standing in line, and they just hand the microphone quickly, one to the next. But that's not what happens. What do? Honored with the second bracha is... It takes 10 minutes for him to come up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, Rabbi, which page are you on the microphone? You're talking between the brachot.
Oh, that was so beautiful, too.
Right. Then you get a chazak of Aruch on his way down. Yeah. But should please stand up for the third bracha, for Rabbi so-and-so to please come up. It's something that I told our parents, I can't fight about it. If that's what they want to do at a wedding, that's what they do. I just ask them, I have a questionnaire I give couples before the wedding. I ask them,
done that.
like, what do you want to do? 1, 4, 7? At my wedding, I fought hard for this. Only 4. I said, Moshe Feinstein's son is going to be my wedding. At least let me show there's one wedding in the whole world they followed his father's opinion. And it gets worse, but we want to honor people, right? That's what they say. We want to honor people. Okay, you have now 200 guests at your wedding. My wedding, there were 500 guests at my wedding. You're going to honor 7 people? You're honoring 7 people and offending everybody else.
That's true. It's so true.
We want to honor the rabbis. Do you know how many rabbis were under my chuppah? It would have been wiser to choose. Once Halevy did a wedding, and there were so many rabbis. He thought, how can you start handing out this one, that one, the next one? So let's choose the one rabbi that everyone is going to respect in the room. They chose, I think it was Rabbi Yosef. They gave him the microphone, and he did the wedding. He did the brachot. Why? Because everybody else won't be offended that the chief rabbi got the brachot. Yeah? But I'll be offended, the chief rabbi will be offended if I get the bracha. Yeah, because I'm not the chief rabbi. So if you're trying to not offend people, handing out the brachot to 7 of your best friends is not the best way to make friends at your wedding. It's like, these are my real friends, everybody else, thanks for bringing gifts. The problem, the basis of all these problems are that people don't know how halakha works.
Yes.
Because they don't know how halakha works, it's not anyone's fault. Here we're learning. There are people who don't care to learn.
It seems like a Judaism of all minhagim.
Yeah,
We observe someone do that, so we do it that way.
But I
no
once
one knows
posted an
why.
article here from Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik, Rapture. I didn't read it. It was a fancy name. And I posted it in our Google Classroom. I was just in Google Classroom. He spoke about a generation of Jews that just kind of did Shabbat the way they remember doing Shabbat in Europe, and they came to America and pretty much did the same thing. And then the next generation remembered what their parents did, and then there was a generation that went to yeshiva. And all of a sudden they went and they came back with books. The Shulchan Aruch, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah, the Chayei Adam, the Moshe Feinstein's book, this one's book, that one's books. And all of a sudden, the way you're cutting the challah is wrong. Who says there's a wrong? That's the way I did it. That's the way my grandfather did it. So I remember them doing it. Yeah, but it doesn't say that way. And then you have this group of people who start shifting the way they do things to the way it's written to do things. And Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik is suggesting that there was this Judaism that was an imitation of the way everybody was doing things, and there was a Judaism that was a text-based Judaism, And being that he's an Ashkenazi rabbi, I don't remember if he rules in favor of the text-based Judaism. In fact, he probably sees some beauty in the tradition of imitation. But that's not the point. The point of the article is that there was a shift, and that shift is what you're experiencing now, which is everyone's doing something in one way. And just because the books say something doesn't mean that that's the way the Jewish people chose to do it. Now, what gives the Jewish people the right to choose? That's a fantastic question. That's really not for me.
But when you lose the logical connection with the source, you end up with something that's fanciful. It's not. Actually affects the fabric of the whole Torah canon, if you like. Like we were talking the other day about how can a food affect the neshama of one group and not all Jews.
And not all Jews neshamas. That's right. I think here you're going to deal with. I saw someone recently write. I've always called it street orthodoxy. There's that, but this one actually had a different end. There's Torah, and then there's Orthodox Judaism. Meaning, there's Torah and there's Judaism. These are two different categories. There's what it says in the Torah and what people are actually doing. And what people are actually doing doesn't always match what it says in the Torah. And that, by now, shouldn't surprise you. But let's get what we're going to get here. So I was going to give you an example. Let's say I do Kiddush. After I finish my Kiddush, because I was thinking about the blessing I say between Hagefen, I pour it another cup, and then I drink, and then what do I do with the rest of the wine?
And
I hand it out around the room for everyone to taste. And nobody's talking until they taste. You see, shh, until they taste. But I already drank my Levit, and what you're tasting is just a little drop in a shot. It's not even a shot, it's a drop in a shot glass. In fact, these are even smaller than shot glasses. They're like condiment containers,
You get one of those things you pour it in the top and
Oh, you get a fancy thing, very good. Depends where you shop.
they always make a mess.
And the question here is, what happens if, like, when I was in yeshiva in Ner Yisrael in Baltimore, and the rabbi does kiddush, and there are 800 people in the room? How big of a kiddush cup do you think he uses to hand out wine to 800 people in the room? And let me tell you one thing. They do not put bottles of wine on every yeshiva student's table for them to drink on their own. That's not the answer.
They water it down.
They don't. He uses a regular sized kiddush cup.
Everybody else just says amen.
Everyone else just says amen and goes to wash their hands. Because you don't have an obligation to drink from the kiddush cup if the person already drank the amount they need to drink from the kiddush cup. The only reason you drink is to show, like, I love kiddush, I want to be part of this mitzvah. But if there's 800 of us in a room, it's not practical that all of us are going to drink. But that's a halakha. Nobody knows that. People don't, I have to make another kiddush because I didn't get a little bit in the cup. And what do? They go back and they make kiddush again when they already fulfilled the obligation of kiddush.
So it's not halakha when you drink and halakha doesn't say that I need to drink.
There's somebody here in the room who doesn't like the wine that we use. So they don't drink. And whenever says, why are you drinking? Oh, my rabbi said I don't have to drink. That's right. As long as I do kiddush properly and I drink properly, and I'm saying this is important because not everyone drinks enough by the kiddush cup. So they taste it, and then because they have to make sure there's enough wine to pass around, they only taste a little bit. In which case, they didn't do kiddush properly. In which case, you didn't get kiddush properly, and your little tasting doesn't help. There are those ones that maybe the kiddush all adds up. Everyone drinks a little bit. It's like, okay, there's a limit to socialism, right?
But if you make kiddush at the head of the table, no one else is obligated to drink as long as they make motzi.
Correct.
But they don't get the mitzvah of the...
I saw Talmid Chacham. I'm not ruling this halakha. I saw Talmid Chacham. I saw it, and he wrote. I have to examine this for myself because it's a minority opinion for sure, even if it's right. It's a minority opinion. He said that, for example, people who have a hard time drinking wine on Pesach, or diabetics, or people who may have a difficult time with sugar, whatever they need to do, that it's enough. Or so let's say someone is an past alcoholic and they're sober today, they can't drink wine, and they, for whatever reason, I think the example was a diabetic who had an alcoholic past. So they don't want to drink grape juice because of sugar, and they don't want to drink wine because of alcohol. So this rabbi wrote a letter saying that as long as the person who's leading the seder drank wine and had you in mind for the bracha, then they drank wine for you. That does not seem to be the simple reading of the Shulchan Aruch, but I'm interested to see how that conclusion was reached, because that's a normative thing to say in halakha. Such a thing. Maybe not by the 4 glasses. The 4 glasses are meant to make you feel like you are freed from mitzvah, but that's something that has to be looked at. Let's see just a few more sentences.
Rabbi,
Yes.
But sometimes when we're doing kiddush, some people they're holding their cup and then doing the blessing with you.
I've seen that a lot too. Yeah, I went through that. That's a good question.
So they do their blessing, their own
Throw
blessing.
rocks at them.
No, but they're just doing their own blessing, right?
Really, they don't need to, because I'm making a blessing for them.
Okay.
And sometimes it could be a problem. If you're making your own blessing and you don't have enough to drink, then that can make its own problem. I
And
think
maybe
when
if they're hard of hearing, maybe they should. They should.
the
do
only
it.
time I suggest making your own blessing while the person makes kiddush is if you know the person who's making kiddush is an amarit. He doesn't know how to make kiddush properly.
Oh yeah, you can.
So you should say kiddush quietly. Don't embarrass them. Quietly on your own glass of wine that's in front of you.
So there's a question,
Yes.
a simple and very basic question, and it's very popular. So what is it when you say a blessing and you interrupt the blessing?
Drop.
You interrupt
Interrupt.
Oh, interrupt.
the
Sorry.
blessing. What is it? How big is the Averah
It's one of the 10 Commandments.
to use the name?
Do not say Hashem's
His
name
in vain. So that's very dangerous then. That's like extreme dangerous.
But if you say Baruch Shem
Dangerous. I mean, you're not lightning bolts. It's one of the greatest offenses. It's like
Yeah, but it's like, well,
If
yeah,
you say
because
Baruch Shem Kavod, you can.
But
Doesn't help.
if it gets interrupted because of an emergency or something.
Emergencies, I'm not telling you.
But what about, like, it happens to me sometimes, and like I'll make motzi, and all of a sudden I eat a vegetable later on, I start to say, B'rei Priya Dama. And I'll say, whoops, and say Baruch Shem Kavod, because I'm saying a bracha in vain because it's already covered.
Baruch atah Adonai lamedeni chukecha. What did I just say? Blessed are you, Hashem.
You're
Teach
establishing
me your
laws and
Torah.
teaching Torah.
Who said that? David HaMelech said that. It's a pasuk in Tehillim.
But
So
it's
if
not
you
gonna-
ever find yourself saying Baruch atah Adonai, and then you say Hashem's name, and you don't want to say Hashem's name because it's the bracha levatana, you just finished Lamdeni chukecha, and then you just said a pasuk. You're not a bracha.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
Okay.
What
It's a
happens in a
workaround.
situation? What happens in a situation where I already said Elokeinu melech haolam, or I said Elokeinu, or I said the whole bracha. Oh, I don't need to make the bracha now. Shakon elvo. Oh, what do I do? So there are Chachamim who suggested to say Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam V'ed. Blessed be Hashem's name forever and ever. Meaning, it doesn't fix the bracha levatana. It's simply like V'hu Rachum Mechaper Avon. Hashem should forgive me. I said it in His name, but Hashem's name should be blessed forever. I didn't mean to disrespect Hashem's name. It's kind of like, I once gave a speech, and I said, so our dear friend, Mr. So-and-so, and I meant to say, I should live many long years. I said, I'll have a shalom. He's dead. Immediately when I say, oh no, Hashem should bless him with a long life, yeah? That's what Baruch Shem Kavod. It doesn't take away that I called him dead, right? It just means that now at least I added on top of it a blessing, he should live a long life. But you should know, in the times of the Talmud, I believe there's a Gemara that says that we used to say Zichrono Livracha, his memory should be for a blessing, only for living people.
Mm.
Meaning, the fact that I'm remembering his name should be for a bracha. We still say it in Hebrew. Alpez mentions a person's name. Because Hashem Shmelo, Hashem should bless him, protect him. You remember, bring someone's memory. So saying a bracha in vain, that's why it's important to know the brachot and to be conscious. You really shouldn't be, I'm giving myself Musa, it happens to everybody. You really shouldn't be in a place where you could say the words Baruch Atah Hashem and not have any idea what you're doing. I mean, you should have never started saying a bracha without kavanah, without intention in the first place. The fact that you have to fix your brachot tells you that you have to stop and say every time before I say a bracha, I want to think, why am I saying a bracha? Someone brings me a glass of water. I have to think, did I drink already in this shield? Did I already drink water? Did I already make a shackle on something else? And then just say a bracha.
So you have to watch out not to maybe become a robot.
Everything about Judaism is about being mindful of what you're doing. And most people in the world, it's a problem of the world. We're not mindful of what we're doing. Yeah.
Too much going on at once.
This might be an elementary question,
Nothing is an elementary question.
but what if you have multiple hadamas on the table? We have to say, that would be saying Hashem's God in vain if you say it over and over and over and over.
That's right.
Multiple hayas, multiple hadamah.
You say one for everything you're eating on this table.
On that table.
Or in this meal.
In
know,
that
this.
room. Or something like that. Maybe.
Now the good question is, what happens if you make hadamah and you see all these beautiful vegetables, and then they come out with dessert, and it's also hadamah, but you didn't know they were going to bring dessert. So you didn't have in mind to say hadamah on the dessert. What do you do then? When you go to somebody's house, let's say you came to my house, you were in my house for Friday night dinner. Before, and if I would call you a Friday afternoon, if Yitzchak would say, I'm thinking of going to the rabbi's house, what is he serving for dinner? What would you answer him? No. Well, you don't know. You say, I don't know. I don't know. When you come to somebody's house, you don't know what they're going to serve. So when you say your bracha, you're not saying a bracha on the food I see at the table. You're saying a bracha on anything that this person serves me in their house.
You need to have it in mind.
I mean, the question would be different if you made a hadamah on your salad, and then you say, you know what? I also want to have a dessert that's hadamah. That's already a problem. I'm not going to solve that problem for you now. But when you go to someone's house, you are somech al dad ba'al bayit. You're relying on whatever they bring. That's right. Whatever the host decides, that's what I'm eating and drinking. So that's why it includes the. You have this on Shabbat all the time. People don't. The halachas are hard. You make kiddush on wine. You want to come to my house? You make kiddush on some very cheap, sweet tasting bottle of wine, and then Baruch comes over and he brings some fancy dry bottle of wine, and they open in the meal. Which wine is better quality, the one I drank or the one on the table?
Well, obviously
Don't make me feel good.
The one that you like, right?
Well, that's a good question. Is it subjective? I'd say objectively. Between the Manischewitz Black Label and the
Rothschild.
Cabernet Sauvignon of someone, which one is more?
Barkhan in Israel.
Yeah, which
Dalton
one is?
in Israel.
That one.
that
There's
one.
there's a bracha you have to make when they bring out a new wine on the table. That's better than the wine you made kiddush on.
Really?
Yeah. What's a bracha on secondary wine?
Oh yeah, better quality.
You can't drink that wine without making this bracha.
But what if that was brought out first, before the house wine?
And the house wine was worse, then that's not a different.
No, but this,
So then, by the way, here's where people say, well, Sfaradim, we like to make problems with brachot. We like to say, you can never make a bracha because there's an argument. What is better wine? Is red wine better than white wine? Is dry wine better than sweet wine? Is Israeli wine better than American wine? How much better does it have to be? Already that's complicated.
But you
I'm
already
here
said the bracha once.
on an inferior wine. So that's why you don't say hagefen again. But there's a blessing you say on the second bottle of wine. What's the blessing?
never saw it.
Shechech
Heard
Yeru.
it?
Do we have brachot in the siddur? I don't know. We have a page with brachot in here. Yeah, thank you. There must be somewhere in here blessings on food. And then
I
we'll
know.
do it.
I know they have it on the Spanish one.
Yeah, but the Spanish one, Zev could say, "Well, I never started."
I don't know.
Before eating bread, which bracha do you say?
Hamotzi.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Before eating grain-based foods other than rice, you say? Mizonot. Before drinking wine or grape juice, you say? Before eating fruits that grow on the tree? Before eating fruits and vegetables grown on the ground? Before eating all types of food or drink not specified in the blessing of the right-hand column, water, milk, meat, fish, eggs, you say? Before smelling an aromatic substance, you say? Yes? Before smelling the fragrance of an edible fruit. So let's say you want to smell your etrog. What blessing do you say on etrog?
You want to be besamim?
No?
Yeah, I guess there's a special.
Well, Ashkenazim would say besamim because they're afraid of this bracha because there's two versions of how to say it and they don't want to say it. So they became Sfaradim. Ashkenazim became Sfaradim when the fear of saying brachot. You pick the etrog, say Baruch Hashem, hanoten reach tov b'perot. He who gives a good scent into the fruit.
Rabbi, that includes any fruit?
That smells good. That it has to be edible.
So like a waba would
Yeah.
be.
If you like the smell. Now it could be that while it's the 7 days of Sukkot, you're not allowed to make this blessing because you're not supposed to be smelling it. It's made for using, not smelling. Okay, I'm just before smelling the fragrance of an oil, you say Baruch Boreh Shemen Arev. He who creates pleasant oil. So for those of you who are doing all your essential oils, there's a bracha for that. Okay. Upon entering, this one you know, don't worry. Upon entering a new home, using new furniture, wearing significant new item of clothing, eating a seasonal fruit for the first time that year, or upon seeing a close friend after a lapse of 30 days or more. Do you know that last part? You have to say Shechianu on if you haven't seen your friend in 30 days. Now, if you've never met them before, you only know them from Facebook or Skype or letters, and then you meet them, you cannot say Shechianu.
So you need
You have to know them first. It should tell you. Halakha already understood that virtual relationships are not the same as real relationships. Now, once you see them, you don't see somebody for 30 days, you say Shechianu on them.
So you want to follow them for
If-
30
if-
days?
If they're really your friend, if they're not really your friend, don't make Shechianu. Like some people say, oh, I can't believe you're back. Don't say Shechianu. That's not it. Yeah. At a meal of 2 or more people, if someone brings to the table wine of unique or better quality than the wine already in use, recite. Baruch Ata Hashem, Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Hatov v'Hametiv. Blessed are you, Hashem, who is good and who does good, who's beneficent. And he puts a footnote here. One should be well versed in the detailed halachot regarding this blessing. Right? It's complicated. If you want to look up Shulchan Aruch chapter 175, Kuf Ayin Hey, Maran discusses these halachot. It's a blessing you make on the second bottle of wine they bring to the table. And how many Orthodox homes do you go to where nobody knows? Well, nobody even knows this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you like the Kiddush wine, you'll love our drinking wine.
That's right.
When we see it. Yeah,
And then who's making a bracha? But there's a bracha. The same Chachamim who instituted that before you drink wine you have to say Hagefen, they instituted that you have to make a blessing on the second bottle of wine. Maybe even the third. You have to look at the halachot there. Maybe even the third. You keep getting better. The bracha you make when someone passes away. Baruch Dayamet, with Hashem's name. Baruch Hashem. The bracha that a person makes when someone passes away, I'm not saying you on purpose, someone passes away, and they leave behind this part, I'll say you, a big inheritance of money.
That's right, there is a bracha for that. I know, but I don't remember what it was.
It's the same bracha as the wine. Hatov Amiti. It could be Shechianu. Could be there's an argument. I remember an argument there. How do you say Hatov Hamiti, good and beneficial at the same time someone dies? From there is the basis. If you remember, I once gave a shiur, I don't know if it was here. I gave a shiur in LA. About how it is that Sfaradim say Shechianu by the Brit when a baby's crying. And Ashkenazim don't. Ashkenazim don't say Shechianu by the Brit. The reason why Ashkenazim don't say Shechianu by the Brit, the Gaon of Vilna, I believe, writes there, Mishum tzara diinuka, because the baby's hurting, he's crying. How do you say Shechianu when someone's crying? But very interesting. Go to an Ashkenazi Brit in Israel, and they say Shechianu at the Brit. So what, Ashkenazim in Israel, the baby doesn't hurt by the Brit? It's Israeli anesthesia? What is that? Rather, something about Eretz Yisrael, and the Chachamim Sfarad who followed Eretz Yisrael, that are able to experience a complex range of emotions at the same time. You can experience suffering at the same time while experiencing joy, and be able to appreciate both of those separately. That's the basis of the shiur that I gave on why you're able to celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut with Hallel, even though you're cognizant of all the problems the state of Israel has as well. We're not saying the Charedim are wrong. The Charedim are not wrong. There are problems with the state of Israel. Real, deep problems. So what? Just because the baby's crying doesn't mean it can't make a Shechianu. Just because there's a shade, when there's shade, the name of the class was called Dancing in the Shadows. Chamor Nechayahu said, you see shadows, but I know that wherever there are shadows, there must be a source of light. You cannot have shadows without light. And therefore, if it was dark, it would be a different story. But there are shadows, and the shadows means there's light somewhere. This requires a very different way of looking at Judaism, and that's what Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook, the son of Rabbi Avraham Yitzchak Kohen Kook, he writes, the Gemara says, Gadol Kiddush Hashem, Yoter Michilul Hashem. Sanctifying Hashem's name is better than desecrating Hashem's name. You think to yourself, Chachamim had to tell me that? What's so special about that? Rather, he explained that when the two things happen together, a Kiddush Hashem and a Chilul Hashem happen at the same time, the Kiddush Hashem overrides the Chilul Hashem. Meaning you are able to focus on the positive in the state of Israel without ignoring the negative, but you're able to celebrate the positive. This is something that we're able to say Shechianu and a Brit, even though the baby's hurting. We're able to make a Tov Amativ or a Thanksgiving blessing when someone passes away, even though we're mourning, we can still appreciate that which we received. That requires a very different set of halachot. Over there, you get an interesting question. I'm not going to end with this because I don't want to tell you. There's an argument on the Chachamim. What happens if you don't want a baby girl? Nobody should be this stupid. Yeah, stupid people don't want daughters. I'm just saying. I don't want a daughter. I wanted a son. Can he make a shechianu when his daughter is born? He's not happy. Unfortunately, this is a question, but it's a question.
Can't you modify your happiness?
I made a shechianu when my daughter's born. Just don't be scared. I made two.
Maybe he can say it, but we can't say amen.
Can't you? Isn't one of the purpose of brachot to modify your prejudices and thinking about things?
The
Or
purpose
can't you
of
bring yourself
Judaism
the
is to
bracha?
modify everything about you.
Right.
But unfortunately, not everyone let Judaism permeate. It sits over here, but it doesn't enter. So tomorrow we'll continue. It's on this one.